So if Nathan can get himself ready to come up.
Go back here and hide again.
I hope I'm not a year away.
I'm gonna go hide.
I see it too. Oh, now your eyes are put it out. Your eyes are open?
For those of you who will have to be leaving us before the second half, please join us again on June 12th. Our feature then will be Emily Tippin Newberry. How are we now? Ready?
We're good.
Okay. Please welcome Nathan Tompkins.
To Jerry. I wouldn't know you if I saw you, nor would I recognize you, nor would you recognize me as a little boy you fucked. It's been over 30 years. You could be anyone. You could be the bum on the sidewalk panhandling for change for another hit or a drink. You could be the drag queen that steps out at Ember's doors for a few quick drags off a cigarette. You could be the cop who daisy chains 2 sets of handcuffs before you lock them over my wrist and shoves me head bowed into the back of your car. You could be anyone, and I wouldn't know you. And even if I did, I would do nothing. I would not bash your head with my old wooden baseball bat. The blood from your brain splatters over the black marker letters that spell my name on the side. I would not rip your chest, shred your heart with a 30-round clip of 223 full metal jacket bullets that burst forth from the barrel of my AR-15. I would not crush your balls beneath the black heels of my old combat boots. I know you deserve it, but I would not do it. Your life is no threat from me, because once I finally told, you lost your edge. However, I still would not pull my dick from out of my trousers to give you a golden shower if that was needed to drown the flames that melt your skin, choke the air from your smoke-clotted lungs. This one's about my great-grandmother who's buried in the cemetery back home, North Idaho, Napa at Grandview. And yeah, it's a sonnet. Savella sleeps within the oak tree shade, burrowed beneath crew-cut grass blankets, next to her husband and son as they lie, listen to the bark-fingered green-leafed flutes as their breeze-tuned filters through the cool dirt to whisper their light notes into her ears. She opens her spectral eyes and traces the jagged lines etched in the oak's thick trunk, and she craves to stand on the cliff's edge, watch the white-capped surface of the Kootenai, or feel its clear, frigid depths, watch the earth from the trenches of her transparent skin. She stretches, shuts her eyes as she listens to the song whistled from July's hot breath. Last week on the same day actually, on Beltane, 1st of May, I received 2 acceptance letters. One was for a photograph that I submitted to an art magazine, and the other was for 2 poems that are going to be showing in an anthology called Keeping It Weird this coming fall. This is one of the poems. Yeah, it was actually within like a couple hours of each other. It's strange. Anyway, it's called Dance Beneath Streetlights. We disembarked the Portland Spirit, crashed half-drunk feet up the gangway, your fingers woven into mine. Your eyes still glow from candlelight, lips still taste of 2 bottles of wine. You sit down on the green park bench, beads of rain still clot its painted surface. I reach down, grab your right hand, and lift you from your iron seat. I shroud your neck with my arms, aromatic traces of Merlot upon your breath. And I sing for your ears alone, my audience of one, as we slow dance beneath 2 yellow streetlights upon the spring drizzle damp sidewalk. Since then, you gave me a daughter. Since then, I gave you my last name. Since then, our lips tasted goodbye. And since then, we took off our rings. And one day, my tattooed arms will drape another as my whispered song seeps into her ears, and we sway beneath 2 cold yellow streetlights upon a drenched sidewalk at Waterfront Park. This one's inspired from a poem by an amazing poet that I know, Leah Noble Davidson, Portland. She has this great book out called Poetica Scientifica. Want to read something amazing? Get the fucking thing. But it's called Gathering Words. I see them scattered across the splintered surface of the picnic table, its brown paint chipped and faded. The words, "fuck the pigs," carved into the wood near my silent phone. A heart attached to 2 names, Sean plus Anne, lies imprinted by my pewter sporin flask, full to the twist-on cap with black bush. Smooth liquid flames slide down my throat as it fuels my whiskey grin and alcoholic tears. This pen I use to communicate with the blue lines of my notebook as we meld our minds with the oak trees that surround the covered concrete slab upon which the table rests. Sometimes, every written word I gather is a serrated blade that saws down the length of my arm into the vein. Thank you.
Yeah, I am also a fan of that book by Leah Noble Davidson, and she will be appearing here later this year. So, is it Poetica or Poetic? The first part.
Poetica, I think.
Yeah, Poetica Scientifica. Yeah, and it's from University of Hell Press, which is one of my favorite names for a press ever. And next we are going to hear from Louise Wynn. There she is.
I would like to thank you all again. We have a rental car and it's going to expire.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, well, I have 2 poems about poetry. Ars Poetica. First one, Flotsam. It's also about a person. When you arrived, my life was set, and so I thought the way we met was nothing, and you'd go away, and I'd flow on with my life, the river of my life, winding down and ever down, cutting deeper, deeper still, making a canyon, a grand canyon, and never looking back because, after all, why would I need to? But then a glance, and there you are, still. The other one's called Green Light. You know, I used to teach English at George Mason University. I once asked the students what was their favorite novel, freshman composition students. And this kid said, The Great Gatsby, and I said, really? Why is that your favorite? He interrupted me. He said, it's the only novel I've ever read. And we had to graduate from high school. Anyway, so this is another poem about poetry, Green Light. The green light at the end of the dock beckons. Jump! Come on in, the water's fine. Don't walk around the edge, jingling the coins in your pocket, checking for keys, which won't unlock anything important anyway. Come on in, the water's fine. You can still reach out to grasp the last leaf on that faraway branch. Come on in, the water's fine. You can still see the brassy blue jay, the bumblebees, the blossoming buds. Come on in, the water's fine. That bridge, it only goes one way. Cross it, fine too. Nobody falls off, though nobody returns either, except in memory. Jump, the green light at the end of the dock beckons.
There's always a spot in the reading where I pause for a few announcements. And those of you who are not already on the newsletter, got a clipboard over here. I have a monthly poetry newsletter that has readings, workshops, submission calls, comes out around the first of every month, and most of the events are Portland and Vancouver events. So if you'd like to be informed about this reading and the other things that are going on, you can add yourself to that list. But yeah, I often say you don't get out of a Chris Luna event without hearing some announcements. So on Saturday at noon, I'll be doing a workshop at Niche. It's a monthly workshop that happens on the second Saturday of the month. It's from noon to 2:30. Mel's event here starts at 2, so I'm planning on racing over. If any of you would like to do both and you decide to leave the workshop early, I would not be offended by that. I would totally understand, and I could catch you up on whatever you missed, but I'd like to see somebody over there. And on May 24th, I'll be continuing my series with poetry and music at Niche, which is, if you haven't been there before, is right next to the Kiggins Theater. So if you can find the Kiggins, you can find Niche. And I'll be appearing with Matt Brislon. He is an electronic musician, and it's the first time we've worked together, and probably the first time that I've worked with somebody who is pretty much exclusively, playing with knobs and buttons to create the music that is created. And then on May 30th, I have kind of a busy day. Earlier in the day, Clark College will be acknowledging the Poet Laureate position, and I'll be giving a short reading for that. And it's a long story, my relationship with Clark College, but it's nice that they're doing this, and it's a part of their literary festival called Subtext. I believe that's around noon at Clark College, and then that evening, happy to be a feature in Them's Fightin' Words, which is a pretty great last Friday of the month reading at St. John's Booksellers. And I've often said that St. John's Booksellers is kind of like Portland's cover to cover, in the sense that it's very neighborhood, it has a very similar vibe to it, and Nena, who runs that, is doing a lot of the same kind of great kind of community work that I think Mel is involved in. Yeah, those are just a couple of things I wanted you to know about. I also want people, especially people that are new to this, to know that if you have something that you're doing in the community, whether it's poetry related or not, if you can announce it briefly, this is one of the things that we do here, so please feel free to do that. Yes.
Mine, will you?
Yes.
I keep forgetting.
If you could tell me the date and
Barnes
who's
and
reading.
Noble last Tuesday of the month.
Barnes and Noble last
7
Tuesday of the month. Oh, and I understand you have some great features, isn't it?
Oh, please don't ask me, because I always forget.
I think it's, I hope I don't have the month wrong, but I think it's Dan Raphael and Pauline Peterson. Is
I
that
think you're
correct?
right, absolutely
You
you're
couldn't
right.
you couldn't do any better than that. Both of them have also been features here, and they're both fantastic. Dan Raphael is a great inspiration to everybody who's ever seen him do it, and Dan often reads in his bare feet. I think it's so that he can get closer to the earth when he does this thing, and he does what I'm doing right now. And it's amazing. And Dan's about this tall, so it's also like watching a tree sway. And next we have a previous participant in one of those workshops, and someone we love to hear from here, Rhonda Grace.
Hello. I was doing a prompt quite some time ago, actually last year, and it said, write a poem with X amount of words about your favorite color. Well, I don't always wear red, but red's one of my favorite colors. I can't choose just one. So this is my little short poem about the color red. Lounging in hammock, summer's twilight shade, pungent blossom of ruby wine, Roses sport 1,000 births among trellised garden walls, drenched in the shade of red. Slow fire burning, embers glow. Sip wine, good night. Thank you.
I received a grant earlier this year from Humanities Washington that allowed me to do a lot of things in the community. And one of them was to try to get this Poets in the Schools program started. That has been my dream. I'm kind of jealous of Portland's Poets in the Schools program, which has been going on for a long time. And so I've begun to assemble a team of people who have some experience with teaching poetry and want to be in the schools. And our next reader is one of those people who signed up for that, so I'm really happy that she's a part of this team, and maybe there's some of you out there that would like to become part of it in the future. Really happy that she's here again. Robin Moore.
Thank you for the intro, Chris. I'm glad to be part of the group that's going to schools. I think kids need exposure, well, all their lives to poetry and reading. So I'm glad to be doing it. My first poem is After the Garden. When next we meet, our hair white, our steps slower, our eyes dimmer, we will dance amid the ruins of our romance, a slow waltz in deference to our age and infirmities when next we meet. And this next poem is Blue Yonder. And there was a contest, and I didn't enter it, but I did write the poem, where you were supposed to take a line from a William Stafford poem. So if you hear little William Stafford in this, that's where it came from. Blue Yonder. We have all we need, some kind of sky and maybe love. We stumble numb through days, determined to rob us of speech and thought, seeing sky, seeing stars, some small spark of light reminds us of our need, our love, and we reach for blue.
Thanks, Robin. Next, we're going to hear from Bruce Hall. Bruce, come on up.
I've been working too much to write, so between laundry, so I thought I'd read something by one of my favorite authors, Raymond Carver, short story, Wizard. He was born in Yakima. His parents were alcoholics. He is an alcoholic. They gave him 6 months to live, and he met Tess Gallagher and made it 10 more years and stayed sober. And quite a difference in his poetry from then. This is, I think, one of his earlier ones. Your dog dies. It gets run over by a van. You find it on the side of the road and bury it. You feel bad about it. You feel bad personally, but you feel bad for your daughter because it was her pet, and she loved it so. She used to croon to it and let it sleep in her bed. You write a poem about it. You write it a poem for your daughter about the dog getting run over by a van and how you looked after it, took it to the woods and buried it deep, deep. And the poem turns out so good. You're almost glad the little dog was run over, or else you'd never have written that good poem. And you sit down to write a poem about writing a poem about the death of that dog. But while you're writing, you hear a woman scream, your name, your first name, both syllables. And your heart stops. After a minute, you continue writing. She screams again. You wonder how long it can go on. And this one's a really short one. I think he wrote it not too long before he died. It says, all her life, I lay down for a nap. Every time I closed my eyes, marestails passed slowly over the strait toward Canada. And the waves, they rolled up on the beach and then back again. You know I don't dream, but last night I dreamt we were watching a burial at sea. At first I was astonished, and then filled with regret. But you touched my arm and said, no, it's all right. She was very old, and he loved her all her life.
Thanks for that. I really like him too, and it's been a long time. So that was, that kind of got me back in the mood again. Thank you. And what a pair they must have been. You know? She was pretty feisty. Yeah.
She's
Yes.
alive, isn't
She is. Yes, she is. Yeah, you
Yeah, my
have that.
friend takes care of her dog.
Yeah. The one that lived.
We're waiting to get another poem out of it.
Yeah.
Get a tractor.
Fighting in Ireland.
Our next reader tonight is Angeline Meehan. Come on up.
Well, I'm not sure I can read after that. I happen to have a dog whom I love very much. Oh, wait, but I have an announcement. I can definitely read that. So, on May 18th in Portland, there will be a NAMI walk, which NAMI stands for National Alliance on Mental Illness. And that starts at 1, if I recall. And I don't know if anyone knows the statistics, but approximately 1 in 4 adults, or 61.5 million Americans, will experience mental illness in a given year. So that's a lot, and it's not really something you hear about on TV unless someone does something horrible and then they're called mentally ill. So, just saying. Oh, and if you want to donate, I do have a fundraising page, so you can ask me at the end. So I have a short poem, and then I have a poem written by someone else. So mine is called Words, 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 and if that sounds familiar, that's from Hamlet, when Polonius asks him what he's reading, and he responds, words, words, words. Sorry, the blackberry hot chocolate here is very good. I kind of like inhaled something. My words have no meaning. Straight lines and curves carry the illusion of significance before the rational mind. You contain the meaning. Filter the shapes through your memories and experiences to find the emotions in them. It is you who gives life to the letters. Watch them waltz to the melody of your soul. Feel their steps beat with your heart. Never missing a beat, the greatest works dance in the mirrored halls of humanity so that you may know yourself. You possess the power. My words exist, but have no value without your audience. I already watched them dance. So this next poem is by Gabriela Mistral, who is from Chile and moved to the United States, and her actual real name is Lucila de Maria del Perpetuo Socorro Godoy Alcayada. So she changed her name for good reason, for her publishing. And she was the first Latin American woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. So read her stuff. So I'll first read this in Spanish and then in English. However, I mistakenly printed this out in normal font size, and I might not be able to read it too well. So if I pause and go back a bit, please forgive me. It's called Palabras Serenas by Gabriela Mistral. Ya en la mitad de mis días espigo esta verdad con frescura de flor. La vida es oro y dulzura de trigo. Es breve el odio y inmenso el amor. Mudemos ya por el verso sonriente, aquel listado de sangre con hiel. Abren violetas divinas y el viento desprende al valle un aliento de miel. Ahora no solo comprendo al que reza, ahora comprendo al que rompe a cantar. La sed es larga, la cuesta es aviesa, pero en un lirio se enreda el mirar. Grávidos van nuestros ojos de llanto, y un arroyuelo nos hace sonreír. Por una alondra que erige su canto, nos olvidamos que es duro morir. No hay nada ya que mis carnes taladren, con el amor acabóse el hervir. Aún me apacienta el mirar de mi madre, siento que Dios me va haciendo dormir. And I didn't have time to translate this myself, so I'm going to read someone else's translation that I think is pretty good. So, this was translated by Alice Lindsley. So, Serene Words by Gabriela Mistral. Now, in the middle of my days, I glean this truth that has a flower's freshness. Life is gold and sweetness of wheat. Hate is brief and love immense. Let us exchange for a smiling verse, that verse scored with blood and gall. Heavenly violets open, and through the valley the wind blows a honey breath. Now I understand not only the man who prays, now I understand the man who breaks into song. Thirst is long-lasting and the hillside twisting, but a lily can ensnare our gaze. Our eyes grow heavy with weeping, yet a brook can make us smile. A skylark song, bursting heavenward, make us forget it is hard to die. There is nothing now that can pierce my flesh. With love, all turmoil ceased. The gaze of my mother still brings me peace. I feel that God is putting me to sleep.
Thank you. And you know, I just want to make a comment about, I think that what you were saying in the beginning and inviting people to join you in the advocacy is so incredibly important. We still, sadly, stigmatize those with mental illness in our society. And in our community and in our families, people stay hidden. And it's a sad thing that people stay hidden still.
And they don't get help, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's really sad.
And there's sort of a, it's more of a secretive, well, if we just keep it back here or keep the individual back here, then, you know, we don't have to sort of admit publicly, and it's really sad. And to be at 2014 and still be like keeping certain things, you know, hid away. So I really admire that work, and I really encourage anybody who's interested in helping her to either through the fundraising or advocacy, volunteering, whatever, to step forward. Thanks for mentioning that. Next, we're going to hear from Stella Guillory. Stella, come on up.
Nice to be back again to this venue. Two poems. one of my most recent poems was written after my granddaughter Sophia was born 6 months ago. A monarch butterfly plays a role in this poem. Sophia. I sit and chant a lullaby in the 13 tones of my mother tongue. My granddaughter Sophia poises a moor hen pausing on a lily pad. Her weight sinks into my arms. We regain our balance. I make a lei for Sophia, crown flowers plucked from a bush. Their gold-threaded chrysalises of the monarch butterflies hang. The next monarch butterfly poem was written when Sophia's mother, Amber, was a little girl. We were traveling in the vast terrain of the Shanxi province, the Yellow Earth Plateau. We visited the burial mound of China's first emperor, the legendary Yellow Emperor. It's called a gift. The path leads to the burial mound, where rests the first emperor of China. The July sun lifts shades from the path. No escape from the singing cicadas. Path builders touch up the cement artwork. Flashing colors of their tank tops speak of the hardness of the yellow earth and of time. Asleep soundly, one worker steals the coolness of the shade, 1,000 years old. Parched tongues welcome the sight of a woman crouching and bending, cradling cool orange drinks, awaiting at the end of the path. Reaching the woman quenches thirst, leaving her to herself, hatching over her profits in cents. Running, a child disturbs the emperor's royal sleep. She trips, tears torrential, her loud cry overpowering the cicadas. The haunting thirst returning brings the child to the waiting woman. A flying butterfly she gives the child, purple yarn fastened to its waist. The child's eyes sparkle with hushed excitement. The woman smiles, her crooked teeth showing. She says, I heard you cry, for you a gift, a monarch I caught for your delight.
Thank you, Stella. Welcome back. And what I wanted to say about that was, you know, we've had this event going on for 10 years, and people come as often as they can come, and I would just want to put it out there that people are welcome, that life happens, that we get into doing other things, and then we come back, and people are always welcome. And there's never any judgment about, well, why weren't you there, or, oh, they didn't come. Never. And the door is always wide open, and I just wanted to say that. We're going to hear next from Aaron. Is it Pecora?
Yes.
Aaron, you haven't read here before, have you?
I've not.
Oh, well, this is your first time. Let's give them a first time welcome.
Hey, so like she said, first time here. I thank Christopher for inviting me to come out here. I'm going to read 3 poems today. The first one I called A Dream because it actually was a dream that I had, and I like to, it's basically what I like to say, how I like to say I got into poetry. I had this dream, and the next morning I just felt I had to write about it, and it just came out on paper, and then this is ending up being the revised version of it. So, I had a dream where I died and was laid to rest in a field of dandelions in one rose. This was my grove, and in my death I cared for it. It was almost as beautiful as her, but looking back she was only a blur. I became the shepherd of these towering flowers, and they became my wild childs, until one day a black hooded figure came to my land. He then decided to pick the rose, tear out its petals, and stomp on it. He then proceeded to rip out the dandelions and defile them. Oh, who could commit to these monstrosities, I asked. All fell silent. The man looked at me, clutched his hands, and smiled. The field became shrouded in a cloak of clouds. The mountains were as black as night and as jagged as the mouth of an unholy beast. The raindrops were windows through the soul that could be perceived in more ways than one. The blades of grass were as numberless as the tears running down my face. The sun became blocked out by clouds as evil's dark seraphim. The skies billowed and hellfire shot down from the heavens like an angry serpent. And then there was nothing. Only void. Only silence. My Eden had turned to perdition. I had had this ugly premonition. It was time for redemption and for the man to sit and listen. I responded in a symphony of sound. I yelled till the noise was all around. I let out a scream that fell angels from grace and collapsed time and space. I opened my eyes and set my breathing to a slower pace, and I saw the man lying there finally put in his place. So I lifted the hood to look in the eyes of my enemy, and I found my own face. So, I wasn't originally going to read this one, but in light of Mother's Day, I decided to. It's called Mother. Some say we have two mothers, the one that raised us when we were young, and the one that raised us when we were younger. See, we all recognize the one of life unto us she had brought, but we seem to love the one we have forgot, because we have been bought. Now, I'm not saying don't love the mother that gave you birth, I'm saying don't deny Mother Earth. When we were mere children to this place, she showed us her might and struck down wrathful light. The light gave us warmth and allowed many for us to pass another month. When we were hungry, she gave us food. When we were thirsty, she gave us water. And when we were homeless, she gave us a herd. As time passed and our numbers multiplied, so too did our arrogance apply. Where Mother encouraged us to think for ourselves, we instead started to take for ourselves. Our egos grew larger than sequoias. Our greed had more volume than the oceans, and our tempers hotter than the core. As we went from infants to adults, we forgot both our mothers. They never decided to retaliate, but instead decided to relate. Because we were old now, and we knew better, we didn't know a thing. We traded in our mothers, stone for skyscrapers, wood for homes, gems for money, murder for gluttony, and slavery for sex. We became monsters, and our excuse is survival of the fittest. This guilt is on me like a cyst. We all have a clean mind through this, but everyone knows we have a guilty conscience, and our heads will stay in this shitty bliss until we can finally feel death's kiss. Your vision will go dark, and you know your days are numbered, because the place where your soul used to be will grow back black. But all of this is just Mother calling you back. Mother Nature held me in her arms, touched my face so I might let down my guard. I was torn from the new world's grime and got to sleep for the rest of time. Now, I'm not saying don't love the mother that gave you birth. I'm saying don't deny Mother Earth. So this is my last one. It's a little short thing called Pestilence. I'm spitting blood as I spit these words. See, I'm sick to the bone, to the brain, and my mind can't take any more of this strain. A fatal epidemic, a disease am I. I'd really like to share this before I die, so let's begin with the body and its ails. I'm sorry. My voice is starting to fail. I get the flu so often that I think my body is broken and that there might be a real problem. Because I'm weak, I'm falling, I can't seem to stand. Please, madam, take my hand. The stage goes black, I wake up, cough, and I am back. Next in line comes the soul. Even from the beginning, it has never been whole. It has more scars than even these bloody arms, and that's saying a lot, even from the times that I forgot. I know this poem is short to be told, but there's more to come from my funeral.
Thanks, Aaron. And now we have another new friend, Seb. Come on up.
Hello, everyone. I'll just read a couple poems here. This one is titled Chump Change. If I had a quarter for every time I woke up wearing face paint of someone else's past, I still wouldn't have enough change for a bus ticket, a big bus ticket. Have you ever tried to outdrive heartache, buildings crumbling behind you like an earthquake movie? There is an answer. I read about it in an old person's eyes. It said, keep loving. Every time I start planning for my redemption, I pinch myself. The worst dreams happen when we are awake because we don't even know we're dreaming. Once, I was a bastard. I apologized to the people who had to be around me. Then I realized something that would sound trite if I said it. I realized nothing was really a problem. I just carried it around like it was. I was still a bastard. I've realized I had a common disease called the 20s. The symptoms included panhandling for validation and despair. It's getting better. I no longer interrogate myself when I look in the mirror. You can stop listening to this now. You're healed. Okay, now here's the true part. Love is like water on a collage. Everything comes unglued. We could just be grateful to see there wasn't much holding us together, but love takes more blame than a dartboard. Love is the mirror we break when the makeup can't cover up internal bleeding. If parallel realities existed, we could be each other. If they don't, then we're close enough. We're supposed to pretend that every other person already knows all of this. Go to the mall and look around. That's what happens when you assume things. I don't want to give advice. I want to give big hugs, hugs that say yes. And if meaning it makes me a fool, well, I guess that's the price. I'll pay it with these quarters. I'm going to do one from memory. This was inspired, it was several years old. This was inspired by a couple things. One, how much I didn't like Army recruiters when I was in high school. And two, this observation that this poem is about. It's, I think I titled it Encounter on a City Bus. A mother and her son, young, just home from the military. He wears his uniform, they get on the bus. Standing, he seems to challenge everything. Balancing in the aisle, trying so hard to make it look easy. I interpret his every gesture as saying, "Don't worry about me, mother, I'll be fine, I'll be better than fine." His slender hands repeat the motions of opening and closing, a fist. A forced display of strength, he puffs his chest and pulls his shoulders back, hoping that she notices and misses nothing. He hopes she doesn't miss him. She hopes he doesn't turn up missing, lost like innocence was to high school and now boot camp, where he's become a man, which is a well-disguised boy. A boy. He wears his newfound power like a Superman outfit, wears his grown-up strength face like big-nosed bushy mustache glasses. He stands like the cardboard cutout of a promise that hasn't been rained on yet. I want to call his bluff before it kills him. I imagine that being a mother is like raising a single flower which inevitably cuts itself loose. She can't stop his rootless confidence, so she holds a bowl of water under his stem silently. I get it. I want to call his bluff before it kills him. Say, boy, speak the word he's running from. Say, boy, I challenge you to a game of mercy. And take his thin fingers between mine and crush down upon them till he cries and say, boy, it is better me than a bullet that shows you no one is playing here. Nations are enormous boulders, and wars are where their dullest stone surfaces thud together. Don't get caught in the middle. Wars are how the richest and most sick individuals play marbles. You're not protecting anyone. Take me to the general, masquerading as a father figure, and I will cut his costume loose. Pump his proud chest so full of consciousness he thinks before ever speaking again to children.